started? Okay, let's do pledge allegiance.
Pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
I take it everybody's read their notes so we can look at approval of the agenda.
I so approve.
Second,
Second.
all those in favor?
Aye.
Those opposed? How about the minutes? Any comments on the minutes?
I'll make a motion, we approve the minutes as submitted.
I have one little comment here. Under financial,
Oh, okay. You have a seat right there.
I'm over there.
Yes, you're over there.
Head of the class.
Absolutely.
Good morning.
Glad you could make it.
Thank you, thank you.
8 months into the fiscal year, expenses are less than 60%. I don't recall him saying that, but, you know.
Because Tamara made a comment, I don't know, Barry, if you remember that. And then you said, well, 3/4 of the way would be 67%, but, you know, they were less than that.
2/3.
Yeah,
not
yeah,
1/4.
2/3, well, yeah,
Yes, yes,
yeah.
they were less than
Okay.
that.
Yeah, all right, so
Yeah.
that's 60.
It was noted then.
Yeah,
So
did
it's-
know that, yeah.
Alrighty. I have more comments. Okay, the, no, I guess I don't, it's just comments. Sorry about that, it was comments to me.
All right, I second the motion.
All those in favor?
Aye.
Those opposed? Aye. Minutes accepted as written. Okay. Public comment?
You're up.
That would be me. All right,
You.
great. Got some cards, so.
All right. Oh, really?
Hello, nice to see everybody this morning. So I am here this morning to speak on behalf of 1015, the Eagle, and I'm hoping by now everybody is familiar with that. We're a local radio station. Something that really kind of sets us apart from the radio station that had been here in the past is our local talent. So Scotty Mack is back on board with us. We have a couple other local DJs that report live. And so we're really trying to integrate some community awareness about the library, about the Wanigan Center, things that are going on in our community. And so I met with a few of the library staff, and I think it went over very favorably. The interview that we did for the, help me out here, I forgot.
Excellent.
There you go, there we go. And that was a really good turnout. And we have another interview scheduled, I believe this afternoon for tomorrow morning for the end of the year program on Friday. So what I would like to kind of introduce to the board here is a weekly library program, or as we have events going on with our community library, even if there aren't events going on, that we could talk about what the library is doing for our teen population. What are we doing for the children's population? What do we have to offer for the adult population? Just trying to get some of that awareness out there to our community, so that our community, when they think, you know, what am I planning for my family this week? What are we doing this week? That we're thinking library programs. I think that would be really beneficial, and just a really great plug for the library and things that are going on in our community. Yeah? Any questions about that?
Sounds good.
Right.
So what does that involve? I mean, as the library's part of the work, are they supplying the people for the interview, the script,
Absolutely.
Uh-huh.
Okay, so Scotty Matt called the librarian, the children's librarian, which is, I'm sorry,
Laurel.
Laurel, sorry. Okay, and it was very, I believe it was very easy. The interview went well. Had you heard the interview? No? Okay.
No, I didn't get to hear
So
it.
the interview airs about anywhere between 7:45 and 8 o'clock in the morning. So tomorrow morning, as people are doing their drive into work, you're kind of hearing what's going on. So it'll be a reminder and interview about the end of the year program on Friday. So Scotty Mack just makes the interview so easy, just non-invasive, right? It's just, he just asks a few questions. And what's so neat about him calling the day before, they can take 5 or 10 minutes on the phone, kind of go through this interview. And if there's a lot of pauses or if the answer didn't come out correctly the first time, he can kind of back it up. He'll ask the question again and he can piece the interview together. So when he's playing it tomorrow morning live, and it sounds like a live interview, it's a very well put together interview. And because it sounds scary, right? You get 1 or 2 chances at it. So, I will just ask some questions. Matter of fact, I think I'll speak with Ms. Laurel here today or this afternoon.
Yeah, I believe she's here.
Okay, so I'll speak, and she's the one that's also doing the end of the year interview?
Yep.
Okay, so I'll go speak with her. I'll get some precursors down. And then Scotty Mack will know exactly when they talk this afternoon, exactly what to ask her, where, what questions to lead into, what answers we want to hear, or what we want the population to know. So by doing that once a week, or what programs are going on, or if there's not a program going on, if we're just mentioning, again, some of the, that we have a teen center, or a youth center, that we have things, that whole area downstairs, let's just start introducing that to the population, to Manistee. So again, when people are thinking or planning their day, and we can start thinking, library, let's go to the library. Let's just have some quiet time. Let's just have some study time. I know parents love their children to read books in the summertime, so let's do that. So what else does that mean? So 30-second ads with the radio station. If there's a 30-second ad, 1015 will match that ad for a community entity. So if you want, we just did another one between 1 and 5. We did something happened yesterday?
Spoon it.
The spoon. Mhm. So on Monday, between 1 and 5, the library wanted 2 ads ran, so we ran 4 ads. So anything that the library would like to promote, we're going to promote it. It's buy one, then we'll promote it, it's buy one, get one. Okay?
There you go.
Everybody loves to buy one, get one, right? So with a weekly budget of $55, we can do some really nice things for the library. That is 1 interview and mentions, and then, let's see, so it was 55 and then 10, so it was one interview and four purchases, and so 4 more mentions. So it's 1 interview and 8 mentions throughout the week as to what is going on. If we have something big going on, we've got the Halloween party coming up, you want a few more mentions, then we can, up that budget to maybe 75, and so you're getting 5 more ads, which is actually 10 more ads. So you would have 18. For $75, you would get 1 interview a week and 18 mentions, which is quite a bit when you're talking radio. And we're talking between the hours of like 8 and 5, the premier listening hours. That's quite a few mentions in a week.
This sounds very interesting.
Yeah, and our radio station's being very, very well received, again, because we are bringing local mentions back to the community. The library, the Wanigan Center, the Ramsdell, we're doing the performing arts mentions for West Shore Community College. They have 8 programs going on right now, so we're advertising all 8 of theirs. So people are really listening to it as far as what is going on community awareness wise. In the morning time, we're doing, like I said, between 7:45 and 8, we're doing the community awareness mentions, and that's when the interviews will be aired. So people are listening to say, hey, what's going on in our community? So I think it's, I'm really excited for the library to be on board with it. I'm excited for, tomorrow's gonna be the second interview, and so I just love hearing the response back from the community. Hey, you know, you work for 1015, I just heard the library, which I did hear that. People did say when they had the exotic person down at the reptiles, yeah, I did get some, I got feedback on that they heard that mentioned, so it works. It's exciting and it works.
I have a question. I'm
Yes.
Joyce Valentine.
Yes.
I have a question. How far does the radio station reach?
Okay, yep.
I would like to know if it reaches all the way to the eastern part of the county.
Okay, good question, and I do have a map here for you,
I
so
even want to know if I can get it at my house.
you absolutely can get it at your
Are you sure?
1015, the Eagle.
You can get it in your car
You
too.
can get it in your car. So just kind of,
My car
we go
might
down
be
here from
easier than
Shelby
my
all the
house.
way up to Traverse City is our listening area.
And all the way through the county?
And correct.
All the way, okay.
Yep.
All the way, almost to Cadillac. Okay.
Almost to Cadillac. Starts breaking up,
In the border.
correct, right
Like
there,
everything else.
right after 37.
Yeah,
So,
where all the hills are.
right. So
I have to check this out, Dee Dee.
You'll have to check it out.
I will,
You'll even hear me
because-
on the I have an ad on the radio. I don't talk on the radio often, so.
Yeah. All right, I'll have to check that out.
So our coverage areas all the way up from, to Shelby, Traverse City.
We got me covered.
Got you covered too?
Yeah, here, in case you're wondering who I am.
Thank you so much, thank you.
Sneaky. Very good.
I did that to the governor too.
Good job.
Good promotion.
Well, they have questions a lot of times, you know, and they'll give you a call. 9 in 10 calls all the time.
So that's what we've got for 1015. Does anybody have any more questions? I'm really excited to be working with the library and really appreciate this opportunity, as I think the library is a very important and intricate part of our community.
I just have a comment. You said you want to reach all the different age groups, like teens and all that.
Yes.
Did you see the editorial recently in the News Advocate about where Michigan is classed as a elderly state? We are the 12th in the nation.
I did. Mhm.
Yeah, and there is a lot of older people, retired, working, who have a vast wealth of knowledge, and it would be nice to be able to reach out to them and create some kind of a dialogue. Hopefully the feedback would come back to the library for additional ideas or volunteers or any kind of input.
I think we're meeting next week, and we were talking about August, so I thought we would put something together where I would do let people know what the library has to offer, the message that we've been trying to put out there, that we're not just here for the kids, we're not just here for the books, that everything that we have to offer people. So that's what I think we're going to be working on for August.
Yeah, so that the library becomes the go-to place.
Right.
Yeah, that's kind of where we'd like to go.
Right, yes, and we are meeting in August, and we'll talk about some of those programs, and we can definitely talk about one of the interviews being about opening up some of that dialogue that you're talking about. You're just a good meeting place, good go-to place for all age groups. Yep, I really agree with that.
Anybody else have any more comments?
Oh, it's just nice to see you.
Nice to see you.
A new position?
Yes, fairly new, yeah.
Okay.
Yeah, I've been with 1015 now for a few months, but I've really kind of taken on now to the community side of, there's a couple other sales reps that you know, talk to the business owners, and I really want to bring community back together. And I'm really working on, also with Weddington Library, I would really like people to start thinking, instead of Manistee always thinking about Weddington, to start thinking Weddington, to start thinking about Manistee. Like, what do we have to offer? Again, the library is a really, really great place to start. There's so many wonderful programs here that our neighboring communities, Bear Lake, I know that they have a wonderful library, but what do we have to offer? You know, drive into Manistee for the day and think library program. Build your day around what's going on with our local community.
Well, there's a trend nationally so that the libraries become the go-to place, the service center, information center, and we are, you know, wanting to position ourselves that way too. So our outreach, part of it is your station.
Right. Yeah. I think we could just really be a great partnership.
Yeah, and we certainly want to, at some point, maybe feature the branches, it might be a good idea. to do
Absolutely.
shows on the fly,
Absolutely.
you know, so
Yeah,
people know,
we have to
people know
remember
what's at each.
2/3 of your
This is an entree for us.
people that are
for
going to be
many things.
listening are outside of Manistee.
That's right.
Keep that in mind, because that's in our strategic plan at the county level. It was
Okay.
brought up, you know, you can't only think about Manistee, you have to think of Bear Lake, Bonacamont, and so on.
Right.
Yes,
Absolutely.
4/5 of the county's
So-
population is outside of the city.
So if we get our,
Yeah,
if we get our Manistee
if-
folks
if-
out to the Bear Lake branch, because they can't make the program here, but they can make it there, that's, you know, they should know about that too.
So it could work both ways, absolutely, and getting that awareness out there through radio. So.
I'll just add one thing. Deanna came and visited me at the airport, probably like 2 months ago now.
Yeah,
I don't know.
that's one of my very first health calls, as a matter of fact, yeah.
Okay.
Since then, it has been the radio station I listen to all the time in the car, and I've been in this community now 12 years, and it's the first time in 12 years that I felt we've had a local radio station. So, I mean, it's a refreshing change from what we've had on the dial locally recently, so.
Thank you, wonderful. And, yeah, as a matter of fact, when we were talking that day, you said the only time, maybe I'm gonna be able to listen to this is in my car, or do you guys stream live? We do, we stream 24/7 on 101.5.net. So, there's another avenue.
Oh, now do you have an app too that you?
We don't have an app, we're not that.
Yeah,
Well, I appreciate the rock and roll that you play.
All right, yay. Well, I love it, I listened to it on the radio this morning, I mean, I'll listen to as well, so. Well, thank you so much for your time.
Thank you.
I think I'll head upstairs and talk to Laurel, thank you. And do you think she's here yet, or maybe
You're
we're
just
here?
gonna go right,
just-
go right.
you just
That's
go
right, I
right
am
forward.
upstairs, I'm
Right upstairs, Dee.
Thank you so much,
Thank you.
enjoy your day, thank you.
Nice to see you too, Dolly.
This way,
Oh, that would.
straight ahead.
Right here.
I see it.
Thank you so much.
You're welcome.
Okay, so, is there any correspondence?
Just from the Community Foundation, I made everybody a copy of the report.
And that reflects the draw we took from our
Right.
available cash, so.
Great. Any comments or thoughts? Okay. Thank you. Financial. Did Dave, when he said he wasn't coming, say anything? Okay.
Anybody have any questions that maybe I or Helen could answer?
Do you want to, is this the time you want to, or is it on the agenda, personal property tax reimbursement?
I have no.
No.
I did do some research, and I found that there was another disbursement in May, but we have not received it yet. So that will, it's an additional $55,000, I believe.
That makes more sense
Yes.
Right.
It was kind of interesting because the more I thought about it, shoot, I thought I had it with me. The more I thought about it, I'm like, this just can't be right. So I went on their website, I figured out how to run a report. I ran the report, which showed
Say their website.
which showed the disbursement, the one that we got. And then it showed another one that was supposed to happen in May. And then it was just, I had just done that a couple weeks ago. And then last week, there's someone at the Library of Michigan, she takes care of the penal fines, the state aid. And so she had sent out that link to all library directors to let them know that there's this website where you can check and see how much your personal property tax reimbursement was.
Is that just for libraries or is it for all?
No, there's, I wish I probably had it with me. But anyways, the report shows all the departments in Manistee, like it showed
Okay.
911, all the other ones, what they were getting to, so.
I'm gonna try to remember to follow up with you. Could you send me that information? Because
Yeah.
the DDA also was the same question and that would be useful to know. Does that then impact our budget for next year?
Well-
Because didn't we significantly reduce that item because we thought
We did,
so?
we did.
Not that the budget's finalized yet, but.
And not that we even know when we're getting that money, if it's gonna be in this fiscal year, or is it going to?
Well, we,
Should be.
we would hope so, because, like I said, it said May disbursement, so I'm sure with the changeover at the county and everything, they're probably still, going through things. Oh, it's right here. Here, Barry. Sorry for the small print, that's, let's see, it lists all of the,
Okay, thanks.
Anybody else have any more comments on the?
A couple. One being, in looking at this year's year-to-date versus last year, our fees for our ILS system, did we get billed late last year, or, because I thought we paid it this year a couple of months ago, and the year-to-date comparison is showing that last year was 0 at this time, so.
yeah, I don't know how that gets
It
paid.
just seems like
And
it would be
even-
the same month every year,
And,
considering
and
it's an
even
annual
like,
subscription.
I was, when I was putting together the, I don't know if anybody noticed that, but I was looking over it again yesterday, that the year-end report for 2017-18 shows that we didn't pay anything on the ILS system. So I'm making a guess that 2 payments were paid in 2016-17. So I don't know
Okay.
how,
You would think on an annual subscription it would be the same
Same-
month
same thing,
every
same-
year,
yeah.
but.
yeah.
The other question is with the delinquent tax reimbursement. I see that we still don't have that in.
I believe we did.
We got a check just recently, and it was deposited on Friday, the check.
Okay, so it will be in next month's.
Yeah, it was,
Do you know how much that
Yeah.
was?
sure do, 82,551.
Okay, good. Okay. Because the if you look at the net, it shows that we're about $105,000 behind where we were a year ago at this time. But 82,000 and the 26 for the ILS, basically those two make that difference, so we're pretty much on track with where we were.
And then we just did, there was the, right here, state aid, we just got the first payment of the state aid, which was 9,126. And then that other payment of 9,000 will come in August. So I think we're gonna end up,
Almost even.
and then two, if, when we get that other personal property tax, $50-some thousand.
Yes.
Yeah. This is.
Which I,
No,
before this
no
meeting, I
change.
thought wasn't good, there, so that's good news. I'd make a motion to approve the financial reports as presented.
I second it.
All those in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Those opposed? Thank you. Okay, administrative reports.
Any questions, comments? Our Muxville reptile event that we held at the Armory, thank goodness we did. We had about 163.
They like those cold-blooded things, don't
They do, it's interesting because we had a different program last night and I don't think we got very many people at it, you know, so I think people like
Was that
animals.
the geode program?
Hmm?
Geode, I think, or
No,
something?
no, it was a spoon man, someone we
Oh,
brought in.
that's right.
Yeah, so it's interesting to see these programs we bring in and, you know, look at the numbers, what people come to.
Now, I have a question for you.
Mhm.
On your review, the LSTA grants for the library, aren't you in class for writing grants?
No, I'm in a leadership class.
Leadership class, oh. Okay.
Yeah, Julie and I participated in reading grants for the LSTA, that the Library of Michigan. It's a good way, I had done this in Colorado too, it's a really good way to see, because these are the big grants, you know, some of them were 50 pages, some were 80 pages, you know, see what they're writing grants for, see how they're written. So it was a really good learning experience.
So it's more or less like an exposure, not actually how to do.
No, not how to do, but it kind of shows you how to do.
Right, and this is all the work you have to do.
Yeah.
This is all the work, yeah.
This is the language you have to use and.
Okay, you made a comment,
somebody.
under technology, you received a quote from Circe,
Cersei.
very high praise.
Yeah, it's more than what we,
Okay,
so,
way out of budget.
so Pam, Nick, and I went down to Ludington last week, to get, because Ludington went on it probably a year ago, Apollo's that other one that we were trying to look at, but we basically we were getting a sales pitch and we wanted a demo. So we thought, well, we'll just go see, you know, somebody that already has it. So we're further looking into Apollo because that's reasonably priced and it seems to have all the bells and whistles that we're looking for. And Cadillac just went on it last month and they have 4 branches. I reached out to Tracy, the director there, but I have not heard back from her yet to see how it works, you know, with multiple branches. Ludington does have, you know, 2 of them, and they say it works well, so.
And it's user-friendly.
Yep, so, and staff friendly,
Well. Yeah,
both sides.
but they're using it too, so I could do that.
So the overall reception for this Apollo system is positive, except for you're getting feedback from Cadillac.
A couple questions I had is, you mentioned the continuous meeting, shelves continue to be back. I guess, do you have a goal there as to what you're trying to accomplish, or you're just, as time allows, just continue?
Well, as time allows, I do what I can. I have one staff member that has been helping me. And, you know, I keep telling them, when we get the new shelves, we're still gonna have to bring it down a lot more. So we're just going to, I know that when I had found those, when you guys were doing those plans in 2014, there was a percentage of like 25% on there. So once we get ready to bring in new shelving, we're going to have to really take a look at it and see, you know, some stuff we're sending out to the branches because we're weeding the branches so they have room, so then we just take some of the stuff here and send it out to some of the branches. So we'll have to see.
Yeah, the branches probably can keep up with weeding better than here, I would think, because they do have some downtime.
Well,
where
they haven't, so we have, you know, with the new turnover, we've been, I've been out there, you know, showing them collection development and, you know, how to, you know, decide what you get rid of. So we are working on it, and we kind of put a halt to it for the June and July. So we will get back to it, and then hopefully the shelves here will start. I mean, there's shelves down there, you can't even put another book on it. So we're trying to get that, so.
What criteria are you using for weeding?
Well, my criteria is first appearance. You know, I've found some very interesting books on the shelves. You know, if it's old, raggedy, yellow, I think your bookshelf should look nice. You know, I wouldn't want, you know, like I said, some of the books I pull off the shelves, I'm embarrassed, you know. And then we kind of take a look at, we've done where if they haven't been checked out in 5 years, we've done that. Now we have to even bring it down even more. So I think we're looking at 2 years right now. If they're popular, which we have, you know, a lot of popular authors in the fiction, and they have so many books, like I said, we'll just send them out to one of our branches. That way they're available for people. So.
I was just curious. I had to weed $6 million down to $2 million. And I was wondering what your method was. And that's what I did, I ran a report.
Yeah,
It
yeah,
had
that's what,
been used, and then what I also did, just so that everyone knew, when I took an item out of the stack, I made a report, and I made the supervisor sign off on it. That way, we knew where it went, because I sold an item one time that they said they never used. There come a time when we needed it, and I hadn't shipped it yet. So at that point in time, that's why I did that report. So, yeah.
Then my other question is, you've got a note that the Bear Lake parking lot was resurfaced and striped. I'm assuming that was not our expense, but that was.
that came out of that Bear Lake improvement, yep. Yep, yeah, I didn't even know it was being done, and I went out there and I'm like, wow, that looks really nice. Any other questions?
Who's the contact in Bear Lake? You said there was no notice to you,
What's that?
for the paving,
That's their library board.
the electrical.
I like that. Yeah.
Don't complain if they're paying for it.
Oh, no way. Okay. Anybody else have any questions? Comments? Okay, thank you. Okay. Moving on to committee reports.
Helen's got copies.
Oh, thank you. Oh,
Nope.
I have the facilities already. And what is
I'll
it?
give you the whole packet.
Oh, okay, thank you.
at least I got you the,
This is one I pulled off this morning, which I just didn't see. This is
I just copy and pasted yours.
Oh, okay.
That was what you took from me.
Oh, okay.
yeah, she did but I knew I had to get it done.
No, what I'm saying is, I just received it this morning. There's a really screwy going on. No, this version, the original
Yeah.
version.
Right,
Barbara
I
just
know
sent
that.
it this morning. But
Oh, I thought it was my.
No, I just took what you said.
No,
Oh.
the
Okay.
ding-a-ling didn't do it until this morning.
Oh, that's all right. I've had very strange problems with my internet, and I understand a lot of other people are too, but
Yes, you're not alone.
that's right. Just a little verification.
Facilities.
Okay, we are down to facilities.
Yes,
Barb?
and,
basically, we were, doing a 5-year plan and, at the facilities meeting, Deborah handed out one of these that she has all of the committees listed on.
Ross, I gave you one of those, right?
I don't think I've.
Yeah.
Okay.
I have another one.
Minus the
I thought I
purple.
did,
Okay.
because I know
Okay,
who
good.
that.
Oh, okay.
And some of the things that she wants to take to the county, so we kind of reviewed that. And basically, the teen area will be carpeted on August 14th when the library's closed. And then the tech room furniture is being ordered, the asbestos and tile. That will be done hopefully September, October. And then between January through March of 2020, we'll work on the main floor, carpet paint and shelving. And then we also discussed the staff workspace and the outside of Manistee's building for repair over the next 5 years.
Yeah, specifically the limestone and the bricks.
It's some of the bricks. And then we also discussed this room with the kitchen, refurbishing that. This is all over the next 5 years, after 2020. And that also includes refinishing these floors and redoing the windows and all of that kind of thing. And we need to make that kitchen a lot more music friendly. And right now I noticed it's kind of a storage room,
What's that?
but
What's that?
the kitchen.
Oh, it's always been a storage room.
Right.
You should have seen it when I got
It used
here.
to be much more of a
I
story.
was gonna say that,
It's
but
very
ours-
nice right now.
It's relatively
Okay.
neat now. There's more floor space,
Uh,
if that's a hint.
All right, so anyway, our goal is to make the library a much more welcome environment for the community. So, that's the facilities meeting.
On the 5-year plan, is there, I mean, I assume there's still more work to do on it. Is there a point where where there's a written document that says a 5-year plan, or, I mean, is?
Well, we're
It's
in
still
the
a-
process.
it's
So,
still
I mean, so that's gonna be a few more months away, I'm assuming.
Yes.
We were just throwing out ideas there so I could put something together to take to the county.
Okay.
Right,
Got it.
because we're not firm yet, we just are,
Throwing stuff out there.
Okay, got it.
but we did a pretty good job of,
As it comes to mind, and there's one thing that I added to the list, but I never communicated back with the committee. Barry made a comment,
about the
May.
lights and
thank you, first of all,
Right.
yeah,
Oh, yeah,
Right.
don't forget the lights.
yes, the lighting.
the lighting.
As we did for this, we
Have you
wanted
had
to
your eyes checked
replicate.
recently, cause I'll.
Didn't
And then
hear
the
you, don't think?
skylight would be nice to see
Oh, I
on
would
there.
love to have that skylight.
Wouldn't that be?
Maybe that's.
What
the
else you got
10-year
there,
plan.
Barry?
Maybe that's the 10-year plan.
Got any more?
20-year plan.
That may be
Oh, I've got a
10-year.
long list,
Yeah, uh-huh.
but
Yeah, good
I'm not
job.
on that committee.
No,
so-
we did discuss those things too,
Yeah,
but we didn't firm anything up yet, Roz. We
okay, all
I mean,
right.
we thought we did pretty good to get through to
You did, I just didn't,
2020.
I didn't know if you had
With a
a,
firm plan.
if you were trying to get this
Nothing
done by
concrete
the end of
yet.
the year, what the committee, when they hope to get a 5-year plan. I didn't know if you had a schedule kind of.
We put the list together.
Okay,
We
so
just
started,
started,
we
we
just
just
started.
started.
How about we
That
promise
is
we'll
good.
have one to you by December?
That would be perfect, like, that would be perfect,
Did you
okay.
get the quote for the asbestos removal yet?
Yeah, we had gotten that last year, but I gotta call them back in.
The only reason I'm bringing this up again is the safety grants from the tribe are coming out again. I would put in for it again.
You guys already tried twice.
We've done
Please.
it.
Yeah, you know how many
But-
times it took the senior center to get their parking lot?
so.
5 years.
But yeah.
put into
Oh, so
that.
we don't give
Yeah,
up.
so it's
So
worth,
I'm
yeah, it's
telling
worth
you,
putting
don't
it
give
in.
up, because with the person that was turning you down is not on the board no more.
Oh, there you go.
Yeah.
Ah,
So, and the work's already been done.
It's not a lot of work
Yeah.
to change a couple dates on the last.
Yeah.
Yeah, so I mean, I
Thank you.
just got notice it's coming up here pretty soon.
I think you guys had done it twice and I did it right away when I got here.
Yeah, I
so-
thought
Yeah.
three
So it's been
times.
about 3
Yeah.
times.
We kept running into a roadblock there, and I kept, it was in the paper, I complained and complained, now that person's not there.
Okay, good idea.
Thanks for the info.
okay. Okay, the finance did not meet. Oh, wait a minute, policy,
Yep,
sorry,
okay,
you're
so,
on board.
and, basically, the policy committee worked on the latest draft of the board bylaws, which included, some feedback from, a lawyer. So we did share, Deborah did send out an email with the latest version of the bylaws. And we, as a committee, the policy committee recommends adoption of these bylaws.
We've been working on this for over a year.
So, I don't know if that's add or need that, or, and is that on the agenda?
Yep.
Yes, it's on the
Okay,
agenda.
okay, great,
Yes.
okay.
Okay, very good, thank you. Finance committee did not meet. The DDA ad hoc meeting we had.
And there was a good discussion, we found out a lot of information, thank you Deborah for all the research you've done on that. But basically our discussion raised questions, going through the state law. There's some cases where the tax law recapture is automatic, and then you can opt out of it. There are others where you have to opt in for recapture. We did discuss whether we need it or not this year. So basically, we have not come to any conclusion, and Deborah's gonna check on a few more, to get some of those questions answered that we have on really on how the process works. And if we're already automatically supposed to be getting it, then we, that's one set of decisions. If we're not automatically getting it, that's another set of decisions.
Yeah, we do have to go and do our own digging and wait for the answers. I sat down with the state law book for libraries and read through the DDA section. It was non-informational at best. So there's nothing in the law that states what happens. So we definitely have to finish with, Deborah has to finish the inquiries and we have to be patient.
A question, in the minutes here, it said that there's the number 20,845 went to the Manistee DDA. My understanding was
Probably
that
not
went
yet.
that went to both Manistee and Byler.
Oh, you're right, we probably,
I
I
don't know
think we
where
just
it
kept talking
goes.
about Manistee, so I should take out, went to DDAs, and I'll take out the word Manistee,
And I don't think,
yeah.
because I don't think this has been done yet for what we should have reported
We'll
was
go
the,
to.
was the 2018 number, which was 18,000.
Okay,
something.
okay, or I can take that line, that was just for our information, I can take out that sentence,
No, I was just,
yeah,
if that
that's
was
true,
correct,
yeah,
then what was the number for
forgot that
Byler
there-
and?
I,
We
and I
don't get that
And I
information.
forget that there is the file, I forgot about
Yeah,
that.
we don't
And we
get the
didn't mention
breakdown.
it in our meeting, so, yep. thank
Yeah,
you.
it's just listed on the tax revenue report that I get when I'm doing the budget, so I don't know where it goes.
Okay, yep, okay, thank you.
Okay. Any questions, any comments on any of the committee reports? Thank you. Old business.
Oh, one committee question, and this has to do with the handout here. So at the end of the list of information, it asks with what questions do you want answered through the strategic plan? when do you need that answer from each committee?
Well, you guys need to start thinking about this, because to go along with the strategic plan that we're going to be doing, we had this discussion at one of our meetings, so I wrote this down and I put this on here so that you guys could start thinking about what do you want to know? You know, what do you, because we've been talking about a board-driven plan, what do you want the outcome to be? What is it that you're looking for in that plan?
But I also think that we need to think about the community because, it's the community that visits the library and the library is basically a service organization and we serve the community, so.
I have a comment to that, to add to what Barb just said. Because after the meeting, I wrote out my thoughts, and the plan has got to be a cross-section of our members. Members set the tone, the director and the staff do the operations. To implement our plan, our strategic plan, we have to bear in mind that we as a library system represent a different type of organization on how we serve the community, and we got to incorporate that versus being board-centric. We cannot remain just board-centric. There has to be much more on many different levels, inclusion of the patrons, taxpayers, or whatever, however you want to group them, because we must remain service-oriented and, like you said, friendly to the community. Then there was gonna be open meetings versus just versus just having board members on. The open meetings will be very important. That'll be something very different.
I think that goes along with the strategic plan discussion later.
Yeah.
I think because you guys were talking about this, and I don't know who told me to write this down, because we're going to, as the board, you're going to have a meeting together and try to, make a plan. So what do you wanna know? What is it you wanna know?
As a committee member, so yes, but I totally agree with what both of you were saying, but I think, as committees, if there is something, and maybe the policy committee doesn't have anything for the strategic plan, maybe they do, but I'm sure the technology committee and the facilities committee,
Right.
possibly.
Finance.
So that's, so it is good to put some questions with your committee hat on.
Which is why
So,
we all have to give input, each committee.
Yep.
Yeah, that's,
But I also think that what I heard you just say and what I thought I read somewhere was that the revised plan has a session with the board.
Yes,
yes.
yes, and so this is what I'm saying, I don't want you guys to come in and you're just sitting there and, because,
We're
everybody's.
paying him.
And
We're paying him, so we need to tell him.
So the outcome, I'll take it back to one of our conversations that we had. Okay, so we want to bring out of this whole strategic plan and everything that we do, we want to know where we're going. Where are we going in the next 10 years? There's something you want to answer
And what
through this whole process.
purpose of my comments is that we have to think of the board's role in terms of a community service and being a user-friendly type of organization, rather than something that's just totally board-driven. We have to step back and ask committees. Each committee identifies what we can do to make this a patron-oriented organization, and I don't mean just patrons, I mean taxpayers as well. There are people in the county who never touch the library, never darken our doorway, but they're still paying taxes. So this is why it's important that they see value. Okay, I'll be quiet. I mean, it's.
But we're coming back to that discussion anyway, it's on the agenda,
Yeah.
so, okay, that's good.
Okay. Are we done with the library projects?
Yeah, that's pretty much it.
That's it? Okay. Okay, under new business, we have motions. Motion to approve an additional part-time clerk. Okay,
So, last month, we just discussed, in the 2019-20, the need for an additional part-time clerk, and I believe everybody agreed to that, going in that direction. I would like to move forward at this time of getting that, additional part-time clerk, hired. We are in our, 3 months out, I believe we can, financially support, the position at this time, and moving forward. So I would like to have approval for hiring an additional part-time clerk.
I will make that motion.
And I'll second that motion.
all those in favor?
How about discussion?
One discussion?
Yeah, usually you do motion second
Okay,
and
I
then go for
know.
discussion.
Do we have the sufficient funds in our current budget?
In our current budget?
Yes.
Yeah.
Because we probably underspent,
We-
I was trying to find the
Yeah,
page
because we
just to
went
see.
several months
Right.
this year with lack of personnel.
Right.
So I figured the most it's gonna cost us maybe $4,000 for the additional, for the rest of the year, so.
Because, otherwise we would need to do a budget amendment.
No, I think we're,
So I just wanna make sure that, either we should be contemplating the budget amendment now, or if it already fits within the budgeted amount, then.
yeah, I don't think it's going to be a huge impact.
That was my only comment.
Okay, thank you. You wanna vote now?
Yes, ma'am.
Okay. All those in favor?
Aye.
Those opposed? Motion approved. Okay. Now, we have a second motion to approve the change in branch hours.
So this really didn't fit under a committee. So we might want to think about something like this in the future, of creating some other committee to talk about things like this. So I tried the best that I could to lay this out for you so that you could look at this prior to the board meeting today. With the explanation of why. So basically, all of our branches have one day that they're just there. Some are open 2 to 5. I've got one that's open 1 to 5. And they all just vary. Wellston has been closed on Wednesdays. They've had a lot of asking to have hours on Wednesday. Wellston is probably one of our busier branches. So I believe that, looking at the branches to really be consistent, fair to all the communities. And so the other thing is on Tuesday, Wednesday, and Thursday, when we're not open on Saturdays at the branches, we have all the branch people coming here. Our Wednesdays are just, there's so many people here. That's just, I believe that we should open the branches on their half days to make it a full day. The only downside would be that the branch managers wouldn't be coming here. But we intend to launch a collection rotation plan that will get all the collections rotating. And then what we've been doing this summer is we'll just go take some new books. I send books out to some of the branches so that they have new books on their shelves. So I really believe that between the collection rotation plan, we can make it work so that the branch managers are out there in the branches open full days on their half days. Arcadia, I believe should be open when the community center is open.
Yes.
I had worked out there several times over the last year, and I found that, I talked with, I can't remember her name, the lady that kind of oversees the community center, and she was showing me her hours. I'm like, we're not open all of these hours when they're there, because I believe when they're open, there's people in there.
Oh, there are lots
You know,
of people
and,
there.
and so I think that's the time that we should have the library open, because, you know, once they leave for the day, I'm sure they're not coming back to use the library. And so I think just to try it and see if, opening up one additional day on Wednesday, and just changing the hours out a little bit to be there when the community center is open, when there are people there.
I like the idea. We also have to consider the distances that a lot of the patrons travel to get even to the branch library. And the utilization profile will probably change, not that I have any magic foresight.
No, we don't
into what-
know.
But I do think there will be a response, and I've heard comments in the past using, because I use the branches, that it's frustrating for them not to have something available in the middle of the week, or, you know, have the library as a resource as accessible. And so this provides the consistency in service that we need to show.
I do have a question, so were the numbers on Saturdays previous, because we tried opening?
Pam and I have not put that together yet.
Okay.
Once this year closes on the 17th, her and I are going to sit down. We actually need to take it back to 2017,
Okay.
because last year, with my first year here, we had changed the hours 10 to 2.
Right.
And it was 2017 that they were open 9 to 12. So we're gonna do a little bit of research and put something together to share with the board.
Okay, because that was just, I mean, because sometimes that happens, you try something, and you try it for X number of time, and it doesn't work. So then you have to redo.
Yep,
And-
all you can do is try.
Right, and I understand that, that's what you need to do, because otherwise you don't move forward. If you don't try something, and then you find out, well, this works, but this doesn't work, and then you reevaluate. And that was another thought that I had, is this something that the board needs to deal with, or is this something that Deborah can do on her own? You know, if the hours aren't working that are established, can she just, you know, present to us that, well, everybody, the people in the community want the library open when the community center is open, so therefore we need to redo the hours there, and people want Wednesday library hours, so we're redoing the hours. So is that a feasible alternative to bringing all of this to the board? That,
Are you saying that, you know, are you questioning for the board, laying out a
yes,
hypothetical question, that this is strictly an operations decision? not
that's
a board
exactly what I'm
Okay.
thinking.
That I think is where we have to go with this, and,
Because she's got the statistics, and
Yes.
then if they're gonna
That is in her.
reevaluate them and the statistics
Oh,
show
and
the
that.
question is, why does this have to be a motion?
Well, if it affected the budget is one question, but from what you're telling me, it's not
It's
changing
not.
anybody's
It's not.
hours, or will it be increasing or
With-
decreasing
with-
any of the branches?
With the approval of
Effective
the additional part-time clerk, that person, it was, I believe it was 16 hours that I needed to cover here. With that part-time clerk being approved, that will cover those hours there. Actually, I left it on my desk. I did put together some numbers. Actually, we currently pay mileage when the branch managers start here and they go to their branch. So we will be saving those costs. And then we also have where they're on the clock when they're doing it. So we do have some cost savings that we are able to put towards that part-time cert clerk. So really, it's not going to,
This is,
impact
we're not
our
amending,
budget.
we're not, yeah, we don't, I guess that was one question, if we would have to amend the budget, we certainly would need to come to the
Right.
board.
Right,
If it's within the budget,
Right.
it's a good question.
it's almost a
And-
wash.
And same with hiring the circulation clerk, if we had, except that was a budget item.
that is a
But if we
budget.
had already, but if you were waiting until, the next fiscal year, we had already worked that in, you wouldn't have had to have come to
Right,
us. Okay,
right,
so-
yep, and so, yeah, Joyce and I had talked about it, thought because since it's impacting the budget this year.
So some thoughts I have on that is, because you started this by talking about should we have a committee for this? I think that we don't need a committee. I think that our staff is more than capable of knowing the details and coming up with recommendations. However, I do think the board should approve those recommendations like is being proposed here. Partly because to me, this is almost like a policy. You know, it's a very real expression of our services, and I think the board should, you know, for one way or another, I mean, you could say, oh, well, you know, and again, this is hypothetical and not meant to be taken seriously. I don't like Arcadia, so we're just not, we're only do 1 day a week there.
Right.
That to me is, it could, not that would ever happen, but I just think that the board should be approving that. But I don't think a committee needs to be set up
Okay.
that's then, you know, vetting all this, just bring it to us what you think.
Okay. I
Now,
guess-
You know what this is, I'd like to add one word to what you've just said. I think this is also a show of our commitment to these services for the patron.
Correct.
Taking a look back and looking at actually just open hours. There's so many layers to what our service and our commitment to the patrons involve. This is just one layer of service, 4 hours, juggling them. Yeah. So, okay.
As we've been talking, I got a bunch of notes here that I want to talk to. One goes back to some of the things that Barb was saying about the timing of this. I think this is a really good time because we haven't changed ours for a number of years. There was, when I was first getting on the board, there was some reductions and changes because at the beginning of the last contract with the union, there was some disagreement around, I believe, breaks and things like that caused all sorts of things to change, and then there were people from the public that, lots of public comment about how they didn't like the change and all of that, and you know, since that time, things have been fairly consistent. So I think after 2 years, you know, a little change and just seeing how things, is this the right way? We'll learn
Right.
from it.
Well, we're gonna find out.
But also because our strategic plan is coming up, I suspect through that process, all of this will be rethought. And then, you know, roughly a year from now, we'll probably have an opportunity to change things based on that input, but we'll also have learned some things from these changes, and I think that will be a good input
Right.
into that process. So I think the timing is great. One,
You mean like including questions and all this, when we do the questionnaire for the
well, I'm
strategic plan?
sure that will be part of what
Ours
the
is part of it,
public,
absolutely.
Oh,
what the public
absolutely.
need is
Yep.
certainly relates into ours.
And if we
It's a
change
win-win.
it, if we change it now, we will have time
A
to
little
see
more
We'll get some
response.
positive
We'll get
feedback.
response, yes.
Right, we've got
As
more
opposed to
information,
theoretical
too.
feedback, when you ask people what they want, you have to then translate into that, is that what they really want, or is that what they think they want? The second comment I have is, I'm a little concerned in what I hear, is that the interaction with having the branch people come here, and not necessarily for the reasons they have in the past, but more from training perspective, making sure that we have consistent level of training and services in all the branches. Will you still have that opportunity
I am going
to do
to,
that, such that, you know, that there are opportunities to do branch training? And again, I'm looking for something maybe more than just individual one-on-one, because sometimes having 2 branch managers in the same room while they're being trained, there's cross-training that's going on of how things do happen differently, and maybe should or shouldn't.
So,
So how are you gonna address that?
so my plan moving forward, is to have a, staff meeting once a month. And then, once Julie's able to get into the her position that she was hired to do, is to do some, just branch meetings. And so I think moving forward, those meetings, like next month, we've got the one, where everybody's coming together, we're doing a customer service, and then we'll be doing some other things, but just absolutely making sure that once a month, everybody comes together.
Would that be once a month when then everything is closed for a period, like in our August?
Well-
Or is
well,
there
like what we've
room in
done-
the schedule to have an hour or two a month such that you're not impacting these hours? 'Cause
Yeah,
what I don't wanna see is, oh, here are the new hours, except the
Then we're
fourth
gonna close.
Thursday of every month, this doesn't apply.
no, like they did in the past, they had meetings like on Thursdays, once a month at 8 AM.
Okay.
So everybody, so it would be one additional hour for each person once a month, so.
Okay.
Yeah, and just to piggyback, that was kind of my concern, or not a concern, but just how do you solve this? Having managed a remote bank branch, if you kept someone out there all the time, all of a sudden it was like, they really got behind on what was happening. As in, oh, I didn't know this favorite customer passed away. Oh, I didn't know that minor policy change. So how do you keep up that communication with them if they're not coming in here and chatting with staff and you? So just be aware that if you can feel really separate when you're out in your building and you're not seeing anyone, any other employee. I mean, yes, they will be seeing people for deliveries, and I know since you and some of the staff are doing it, that might be a great time to say, let me brief you every few days on what's going on at Maine, so they feel, it's just, you have to really work to keep that connection. I think,
We
so.
have really started, we've been doing it, we do a lot of emailing, with the new, Google Gmail suites, whatever you wanna call it. A lot of our stuff is put right in that drive, it's accessible to everybody. I do send out emails once, twice a week, so there is a lot of that communication going on. And like I said, with Julie being out there, that's going to make a huge difference, as in the past, that wasn't done. And I myself, I'm going on delivery today, Laurel has done delivery, who is the youth services, kind of going out there, talking to them about different programs. Nick did delivery last week, to, do a little troubleshooting in some of the branches. So I think we have a lot of that going on, and I mean, I'm not really concerned. I think it's just something new,
And that may be one of those things that over the next year we learn,
we might have
and
to
we might
tweak
have
it.
to tweak it.
Yeah.
But from my perspective, stating as a goal that at least once a month, for an hour, everyone's getting together, I think that's a good step in that direction. My next thing, and it's kind of related, is my understanding is it is still the case that employees are working 37.5 hours a week. And my understanding of the history of that is that was a cost-saving measure that the library took years ago to cut costs, so we just reduced everyone's time. If we, I think that could be undone, and, we could go back to a 40-hour week, which adds 2.5 hours, which might allow us some more flexibility in doing some of these things. Obviously, that comes with a budget implication, because then we're paying everybody, more for the extra 2.5 hours, but, if we can continue to make the improvements that we are and that we want to make, I see us continuing wanting to expand hours. And at some point, how are we gonna be able to do that? And, I think there is that kind of that built-in, buffer there that, we've got because of past cutbacks.
Yeah, I'm not sure I don't know if it's, 37 and a half hours is mentioned in the union contract, it's a possibility. So I know that we have a new contract we have to start working on
Right,
there
it's
next
just,
year.
it's just
So
something to think
Just-
about.
It's,
So
and
absolutely.
I forgot about that, so I'm just so glad you mentioned that as a reminder that, yeah.
Yeah, I think we had talked about
yeah.
that before, and,
Yeah,
but we would have to, check the union contract and.
right, but
Right,
just
but
to
again,
keep it
it's
in
just-
mind as an option.
Right.
Right.
Yeah.
Mhm.
Then the next thing is, you know,
I have a question.
changes. Okay, go ahead.
This is my ignorance on what goes on with this union here in Michigan. Is 37 and a half hours a dictated item from the union, that regardless of what your operation needs are? Or is there,
It could be,
I don't know.
it seems
the
like a-
language.
a
to me,
lot.
it's arbitrary, because if your operations require more hours of the staff, you'd have to meet it somehow.
Well,
Yeah.
traditionally, we've been doing that by adding
Adding
staff
staff,
as
right.
opposed to increasing.
But if we needed to
Staff,
balance
yeah.
the budget, the increase of 2.5 hours, and not necessarily more staff, you know,
Or potentially,
Potentially.
yes.
I
Yeah.
can see it would be a big issue,
But again,
yeah,
understanding what the contract says,
yeah.
you know,
Okay, so
There-
nobody
there's-
really knows,
I'm
We're not
sure
making a
I've
decision
read it,
today,
but I'm
yeah.
not.
yeah, it's just a rhetorical
Yeah,
question, I
right,
just don't
right.
know,
Yeah.
yeah, okay.
Then the last item, and this is something, there's a lot of efforts in the community right now around economic development. And this is not related to economic development. But a statement was made by, I don't even know who, that as it relates to retail, 70% of retail sales happen after 5 p.m. We have very few evening hours. We generally cater to a day person. As we are looking at the needs of the community, maybe more or more consistent, not just one day a week type thing, but evening hours might be how we attract new users into the system because they just can't take part because of other commitments. Now, obviously, that's going beyond what you're getting here, and that's more of probably the strategic plan thought process.
Then you're talking about more staff, so
Right.
you have to.
But I'm just,
No,
Yeah, a
That's
lot
why
of,
you wanted
saying as to
increase the
how-
hours, Deborah.
what do you know from, you know,
a lot of libraries are open, and I think Pam was just telling me that the library used to be open till 8, 9 o'clock. Well, and a lot of libraries run it Monday through Thursday. Friday's a little different. People don't, that's not what they're thinking about on a Friday evening.
No.
But a lot of libraries are open later, Monday through Thursday. The thing that I have, because we watch the numbers and, I have the staff. The branches rarely after 6 o'clock do you get, very many people. And I think even here, but definitely something we could look at.
but is that because of lack of consistency that people, is today the day they're open late? I don't know, I'm not gonna drive over there or spend the time looking it up. Cause I see that struggle downtown with later hours. The DDA would love businesses to be consistently open. They try it one day a week for 3 months, and it's like, well, that didn't work, and it's like, well, did anybody know?
Right.
yeah,
I
how
mean,
do you
so there's
communicate, yeah.
Mhm.
there's a chicken and egg situation there, and that's why I'm more interested in what other libraries, what their experience is in their communities where, they either are or not successful in this, and trying to understand that for our model, so.
And hopefully, the strategic plan, hopefully.
I was gonna say the strategic
he will-
plan will
he
tell
will
us.
be doing some of that, yeah,
Yeah.
good questions.
Yep.
That's a good question.
Those are all my comments.
That was a good one. It's like going back to the old tradition, you were open on Monday nights and Thursday nights, and everybody knew that stores were open later. So, and if there are so many people working now, and you've got families now with husband and wife, you know, 2 working members in the family, this is a valid consideration for later hours, evening hours, whatever you wanna call it, yeah. Okay, good thoughts. Alrighty,
Was there a motion on this? or-
yes, we need to go back to the motion.
I don't think, did we?
I don't think we made, I was
We
about
did
to.
make a motion, but we also,
Barry wanted to discuss it.
Barry wanted to discuss it,
Well,
so.
because I know that she's not gonna give me a chance to discuss it.
That's right, let's get this motion on the table.
All right,
Now, I'd like to go back to my comment and where Barb was going with this. Is this truly just an operations decision? If she's already done the budget homework, she would bring the information to us and then we would have to consider it a budget adjustment. But other than that, if she's done it and it's a wash and everything is working, why does it need to be a board decision?
And I'd say besides Barry's point that it is a bit of policy, I also think for Deborah, if patrons come to her and say, I hate what you did to my branch, she knows that the board is disgusted and is backing her up. So whether that gives her the inner confidence or the idea that, well, why don't you, here, I'll bring this up to the board. However, but I think it is nice for something like that, maybe to know that if we have voted unanimously, yes, you can, that lets you know, yep, we think you've made the right decision.
So your comment is for a motion.
It doesn't, yeah, I don't think it hurts.
well, it's a
Anyway,
motion now, so we might as well.
Go ahead and do it, yeah.
You want my opinion?
Yes.
You always.
Barry's right, it should come to the board, because the ball ends with the 5 people here, not with Deborah. So if there's a change
At the
in
end of the day, it's
hours,
on you.
yeah,
Exactly.
if there's a change in hours, you guys probably should all vote on it, up or down,
Okay, so,
I agree,
you know?
Okay.
I agree.
all right. I move to approve the change of the branch library hours, as stated.
Second,
Second.
all those in favor?
Aye.
Those opposed? Okay, now, the next item is revised strategic plan proposal. It was in the packet.
I have
And
an
in
extra,
an email.
I have an extra copy if anybody needs. So,
So I have a question, and what is the benchmarking report that we are giving up
I
and
was trying,
saving money?
I was looking at this morning, I didn't see
Yeah.
anything that really referenced, well, I know it said something about benchmark, but yeah, I don't know exactly what that was. I was
Okay.
comparing the two,
Okay.
and I'm like,
yeah.
you know,
Okay.
I mean, it's saving us $3,000. You've got the conversations, you know, with the staff, with the board. I
Very
think,
necessary.
I think it's good.
Yeah, okay. I just didn't know what a
I-
benchmarking report was, and I was
I-
like, well, we're
I don't know
giving this
either.
up. Is it- What is it?
Somebody has to set the benchmark and then you either meet it or you don't meet it.
Let's see, is he doing less, did the previous one have more comparison to other similar libraries? Is that what we're?
No, I think,
losing?
I saw something this morning.
To me,
No,
that would
if
be
that,
benchmarking,
if
yeah.
that part, if there was more on that in the previous, and I don't have the original proposal with me, but I assumed it was more about that, what other similar libraries were doing, so.
That might have been it, yeah. Is this the new one? Yeah. So, but I think
The thing is, a lot of that benchmarking is stuff, I mean, you've brought a lot of that data to meetings,
some
you
things.
can get that, I mean, and we know the sites, if we wanna see what similar sized libraries are doing, we don't need
Absolutely.
him to do
Yeah.
that.
Yeah.
And the
So
consultant
that-
here should have all of that in his head, really,
Well-
not necessarily,
In part 2, he mentions
Data
that
numbers, but-
we will use a combination of expert knowledge about your library and community,
Right.
blah, blah, blah. So
Yeah.
implicit in that, I think, is that comment.
But I think too, we're different, so a lot of times, yeah, I'll look at other class 4 libraries, I'm like, no, I can't do that because we're different. We have 6 branches, we're comparable to class 5, class 6 libraries. You know, because if you were to look, I don't know, I think there's only 1 or 2 class 4 libraries that even have, Cadillacs of 5.
Yeah.
And with our budget, I don't know if everyone knows that, libraries are classed by your population. It's not your budget, it's based on the population of your community that we're serving.
Yeah.
So I think really taking out that comparison thing, I think is probably good, because we really can't compare ourselves to, we're gonna compare ourselves to, some of those libraries down in the Detroit area, and we're,
We are so not
we are
them.
so different, so.
The only concern that was raised early on was we don't want to be, by having this consultant come in, we don't want to be treated as something that's like cookie cutter.
No.
We wanted, then the discussion evolved into, yes, we are a different library system, not by style, but just by all the factors that we take in, which will be coming from the strategic plan as well. So, yeah, I don't see it as much of a loss, because he's already made a comment that that's in the back of his head. So that's the expertise we were looking for in the first place. Okay. That being said, okay,
So if everyone is comfortable with this, as David said in his email, that he will turn it into a contract, where we can go ahead and get that.
So do we need a motion on this?
When we get the
Not
contract.
until we get the contract.
Not
Yeah,
until we
we
get
will.
the contract.
yeah,
So I will
By
move forward.
consensus.
you can
Okay,
communicate with him.
all right.
All right.
Okay, good. All right, final draft by the bylaws. Okay, that was in your packet.
We've been working on this over a year, and a lot of drafts, a lot of discussion. I think we had a lot of discussion as a full board, and we sent this on to the library attorney, and she sent us back her comments, any changes. This final draft takes into all of her comments into consideration and has been changed accordingly. So this is the final draft, unless anyone has questions, comments?
Come on,
I do.
we count on you.
One is just a typo. And
Okay.
That's
That's what I said in my email, find a typo. I've
on
been,
page 5,
okay,
at the end of C, number 5, should just end with period
Yep.
and not have
Yep.
and comma.
yep,
There was some editing there that didn't make that flow.
okay.
So that's the typo. The question I have is, and I hadn't really noticed it until I was reading it before this meeting. As it relates, there's somewhere in here, it talks about, okay, there it is, on page 3, B, which is Article 4B. Any and all policies in government shall formally be adopted by 2/3 vote. Which, is that new, or is that, okay, so.
Yeah, she had, Roz, you've got the, what did she say on that one?
And she said here, let me see, let me get to that. Let me get-
'Cause it's not
These are
really-
these are paged differently, so let me just
Okay.
find
Yeah.
that, here, okay. If we had said a majority resolution, and her
Mhm.
comment was, this is more than is required by law. The library only has to have a majority of the quorum present to pass most resolutions. For example, the state law requires a 2/3 roll call vote of board members appointed and serving for closed sessions. I caution, Open Meeting Act requires 2/3 roll call vote. I caution libraries that desire to impose greater restrictions than required by law. And I guess her point was, yeah, I don't know, if we only had 3 of us here, yeah, I don't know, I couldn't think of an example of where it made a difference, but her point was our phrasing makes it tougher than the state laws,
Yes,
so.
and you
But-
don't wanna tie yourself.
But the recommendation of the committee is to go with the tougher word.
No,
No.
when we had we just put it as a
You had
We
majority,
had majority.
a majority resolution, and she said, no, put 2/3.
What I understood by what you just read was the opposite, that her comments was that it should not be 2/3, it should just be.
No,
No, that it should not,
Yeah,
because we
it's
have
the other
majority.
which is tougher than the 2/3.
Tougher to obtain and
But-
change.
How is,
Because majority, I think she's saying, it has to be like 4 out of 5.
Yeah,
Right.
Yeah, I'm not,
And if
yeah,
you
but
don't
2/3
have-
is a higher level.
well, considering, library boards are always, we're always, ours is
But
5 people, and she,
if there were
I don't
3
know.
of us, 2/3 would be 2 votes.
Right.
Yep.
which is
For yes and 1 for
Whereas
no.
majority would be 2 votes.
2 votes. Yeah, I couldn't think of an example.
Well, if all of us are here, so
Right,
there's
so
5,
5 of us here, and 3.
majority would be 3,
Yeah.
2/3 would be 4.
Well, the attorney and her.
The majority
experience-
is too, I think it's too broad from what I'm thinking. I'm thinking if 5 of you were here, majority would be probably 4 out of 5.
No,
No.
Required. The library only has to have a majority of the quorum present to pass those resolutions. Okay, now you've got me.
okay, I just,
That's a good,
Is this semantics or is this?
well, she's saying don't go tighter than state law.
Right.
But you're right, majority, yeah,
well,
Majority could be defined.
my point wasn't really that,
yeah.
my point was, is that a change?
Yes.
Because it's not the
Yes.
practice, and I was wondering if we were just not following what they said. But my real question is, I find it unusual that we would say policies need 2/3, but to change the bylaws, which to me is our ultimate policy, only requires majority.
By a majority, that's a good.
So I think those should be the same
Yeah,
language,
that's-
because to me, this is, our bylaws are our major policy. And it seems that we have a lower requirement for that than
And she
we
didn't
do.
say anything about that.
Maybe we, as the board, you should just define how you, what is a majority.
We wanna go back to the majority,
Well, that's what I'm saying,
yeah.
just change it back to majority, but agree that a majority is basically, if you had
Well-
5, you'd need 3.
Right, if you have
If
4 and you need 3.
You're gonna need 3.
Yeah.
And I think one of the distinctions may be a majority of those present
Yes.
versus a majority of the board.
Right.
Ah, that's a good
There you
point.
go.
Because generally, it's a majority of those present. or
Which
of
it
the
doesn't
quorum.
say.
And maybe that was what her comment was referring to.
I am recollecting a comment that we made earlier about the difficulty in getting a change in the bylaws, and that it did revolve around this concept, whether it be 2/3 or majority, but by throwing in that phrase that you suggested, that puts a different complexion on it entirely. Because it's not like we have to wait till we absolutely, to make a change, it's not like we have to wait until we have a majority, enough members present. And I think that was the catch the last time, and this goes back a ways. The fact that, we don't need 5 people all the time to get a majority, but if you say those present, that means at that meeting, and if we need to make a change, we can do it. That's why you were,
Actually, yeah, I'm gonna say I like that on changing the bylaws. She didn't have a problem, we had originally said it would have to come up at 3 meetings, and she said, no,
Yes.
no, no, that's way
That's
too
right.
much. But she didn't have a problem with the idea that we said a majority vote of the Board of Trustees, because honestly, you don't want to be changing bylaws. If you have a few meetings where only 3 board members make it and those people start changing bylaws without
Exactly.
a big group, so don't have a problem with the bylaws being a little tougher, but
Right.
you're,
That, yes, I mean, of the
But the-
two, it seems that you've got the other one being tougher than the bylaws, whereas I think if there is a difference, it should be the other way around.
All right, with that being said, what are you saying? We should make it in a statement. Change it back?
I think for the policies, I mean, unless we think there's a reason it should be tighter, I think just a majority of the quorum present is.
and the part we might want to take out, because what we've got written here, we're saying according to the Michigan Open Meetings Act. And that's why she's referring and saying, no, that's not what the Michigan Open Meeting Act phrases it. So maybe we
Take
just
that
take,
out.
because take that part out so we're not incorrect about the
Okay.
Open Meeting Act also.
Okay, delete the reference to
Meeting.
recording.
Conducted according to the Michigan Open Meetings Act, and take out that part in paragraph,
Delete that.
in a parenthesis, sorry.
Okay,
So you're saying the majority of quorum present of Manistee County Library Board of Trustees, period?
Yeah, that's what I was wondering, can we just say that?
Majority, and we can, and if we want to say roll call vote, because it's, but policies and governance
Yeah, the
is,
roll call vote, I think, is.
works on that, not
Yeah,
just,
that
but
makes
we usually
sense.
do it for budget, so.
okay, so, as it's stated here, any and all policies of governance shall be formally adopted by a majority of those present with roll call.
Or by a majority roll call vote, just take out 2/3 and just put in majority.
Right, and then we delete,
We're not saying a quorum present, or just
Sure.
majority of
Uh-huh.
roll call vote?
I
well,
mean,
we.
somewhere else it says we abide by Robert's rule, which defines
Okay,
things like
quorum.
quorum and
Okay,
things like
so
that.
majority
We
of
have a
roll
valid
call
meeting.
vote of Manistee County
And then
Library
state
Board of
trustees.
Trustees.
And
I guess we can
right.
take out in a meeting, yeah.
And that's it.
Okay.
Okay.
Yeah, sounds good.
Okay. Okay. Got
So
that,
really,
Ellen?
really the only thing that changes from normal operations is we're saying it has to be a roll call vote.
Yes.
Any other motion requires a majority. So there's, that language doesn't change anything, but we're saying it has to be a roll call vote. Okay, that makes sense.
All right. Is that all that you found?
Well, then I would, with that in mind, the very last paragraph about changing, and I guess now rereading this in light of that, the words are there, it's just, I wasn't reading them correctly, but it says a majority vote of the full Board of Trustees. So that, to me, isn't those present, it's, you need 3 votes to change the bylaws, and I think that makes sense. So I guess that does need to change, but again, when I read the first time, that word full didn't jump out at me until we had this conversation.
Okay, so what you're saying is that the statement that we're changing in B, under Article 4, is the way we read it, is consistent with Article 11.
No, they're different, because in B, it's saying basically of those present,
Right.
and this
Right.
is saying of the
Oh,
full board.
full board, okay.
So the
Change the
changing the
bylaws.
bylaws is a higher requirement. You
Okay.
don't make bylaw
You
changes
make
without,
Yeah.
So that
Sufficient
eliminates the
deliberation.
willy-nilly back and forth of every
Right.
board
It
meeting,
should.
we change the
It should.
bylaws. So we take out the phrase majority of those present,
no,
we leave it in.
on which
11,
one?
or-
Okay, then read what the full statement would be in light of the Article 11 comment with a full Manistee County Board of Trustees.
I don't think 11 needs to change.
Okay, but then what, do we have to have any changes under?
We just did.
what was recommended, I think, is,
Majority of those present
Yeah.
for roll
Yeah.
I
call.
think that's
Okay.
appropriate in that
Policies,
case.
but
And
the
for
bylaws has to have the full board.
That reads in sync for everybody? That's the two
Makes sense.
areas? Okay. Okay, that's, all right, very good.
So then my next question is, since we're talking about changing the bylaws, and these are the changes, what is the current bylaw, what do the current bylaws say are the rules for changing the bylaws?
Okay.
Because this says they have to be presented to the board a meeting before they're adopted. So we couldn't adopt, under these rules, we couldn't adopt.
I think it was
until the
three.
next
I
meeting.
didn't bring the.
Well,
And I took it out of my file.
Well, I think it would be on there, right there, on that, the edit one.
Oh,
No.
no, but these have been, remember how often this has started being rewritten in November? This is, remember, we never,
Remember how much we took
did
out?
we adopt these bylaws?
No,
No, so we have to go back to the ones
but I
that
think
Which I
that's
think
from the original.
Helen has.
Helen's got it.
Okay, Helen's got it,
I don't
thank
think we
you.
changed that.
Okay, oh, and that is revision. May only be changed or revised by a majority vote of the full Manistee County Library Board of Trustees at 3 successive regular meetings. So,
Okay,
so we need
No, we
to,
can't adopt this.
so we need to vote
No,
3
I
times.
think we could.
Well,
I mean,
we
with the
start-
changes we've made, we could, we can't adopt it, but we can make the first of the 3 votes
And it-
today.
That's what I'm saying.
Okay.
Yes.
But no, you don't have the full board.
No.
No, but
But you
you don't have to have the full board present, you have to have 3 votes, a majority of the full board.
I agree.
Really.
Yeah, yeah, because you couldn't have 3 board members and have 2 vote yes and 1 no. You have to have 3 votes, so.
Times 3 meetings.
Right, but, so again, on the agenda for the next 2 months after this, if we approve this, it'll just be on there as an item and then but we're not going back and reviewing it
Right.
Unless, I mean,
Well, you could,
hopefully.
but then you start the clock
could.
over.
Then you have to start over, and then you'll never write down.
Yeah, if
Oh,
Cam-
please.
Yeah, eliminate the nitpicking, so we get to the point where we do number
So
1
I'll
vote.
make a motion to approve
Thank you.
the amended bylaws with the 1 revision that Roz basically read to us, and that I hope Helen has.
Deborah has the draft, Deborah has, no, also the draft.
And also the 1 typo.
And this constitutes the first vote.
First,
So the motion will have to
And I will,
include
and
that.
I will second, yep, so.
Okay. Did the motion include the fact that this is the first of 3 votes?
sure.
Okay. Helen, you got that?
I will add that.
Oh,
Thank you. Okay, this is the first of 3. Okay, all the roll call, all right, do we do roll call or do we do just,
I think we
I
should
think
do a roll call, this is, yeah.
okay.
Yes.
When in
Yes.
doubt, it never hurts.
Joe.
Yeah.
Yes.
Yes?
Barry?
Yes.
Okay,
Okay,
roll call.
all right.
Good heavens, we made it. Okay. Well, okay, now, we are down to board trustee comments.
I do have a comment.
Yes.
There are, when I'm out and about, actually, there are some grandparents that actually have been going to the summer children's programs in some of the branches and also at the main library, and they say that they are so awesome for them because it gives them ideas of what they can do with their grandchildren. And then when their grandchildren come to visit the week in lovely Manistee County, the grandchildren are all excited to come to the children's program, so run by the staff, and they were really thrilled about that.
Okay, I'd like to add comment to that, this is similar lines. When I was running the Bear Lake Days for the museum, we gave out, we had created bookmarks, and we passed them out, and when the kids came through, when I asked them themselves, do you read books? Do you come to the library? Do you know, what do you do? But here's your very own bookmark. Not so much the adults, but the kids were absolutely thrilled to have their very own bookmark. it's high, any activity like in the community to the library. And that's what we did with what we did in the Bear Lake days, so. It was very well received, is what I'm saying, so it's just a concept and it's another way of marketing us, but it sticks with the kids, because they know where they got the book, right? The adults.
Oh, and the
Okay.
bingo cards are coming back, I think, like crazy.
Okay, that's my comment, anybody else?
Mine is a question, have you, or when are you going to present the budget to the commissioners? Is
In
that-
August.
Okay. So
Yep,
between
finally
now-
got it.
Between now and the next, between now and the next board meeting.
Yeah,
Okay.
yeah.
Okay.
You'll let us know when you go.
I will.
You need a cheering section?
I got it. I got it, thank
I
you.
don't think she'll have a problem.
I got Richard.
Yeah, okay.
He did well last year, so I trust he'll do well again.
And he doesn't even need to kick anybody under the stair, on the table.
No, there's only 2 organizations that we would question. And the library is not one of them.
Okay.
As long as you're not at a 99% fund balance, you're doing it.
Very.
I kind of want to go back to our public comment. Just, is there any thoughts that the board has on, what was presented? I'll start with my thoughts, is I think radio is an appropriate medium to be getting the word out about our services to a segment of the population. The challenge is not one medium works to get everybody. And I know we've budgeted like $7,000 this year, we've spent under 2, so there's certainly ample budget room left for this year and probably for next year too. But my thoughts would be is I would like to balance that with other communication mediums to get the word out. And my thought would be if we were to enter into more of a formal agreement with this particular entity, that we allocate a comparable amount for probably Facebook advertising, where you can geo-target it to Manistee County residents, and that whatever message we're putting out in that forum, we're putting the same message out in the other forum, and there's actually a well thought out plan that says, oh, this week we're gonna talk about this, and who's gonna write the Facebook post and set the advertising budget for that, and who's gonna get it to the radio station, and kind of all that. But that it be more of a thought out plan as opposed to she's doing her job, responding to a sales rep's presentation. Oh yeah, that sounds like a good idea, but I think
We need to
it's
broaden
I think it's a good piece, but I think it's part of something a little bit bigger. So that'd be my thoughts on it.
I think it's an excellent point. That I would like to think that this is a well thought out plan, because when you say we gotta do marketing, it's very intimidating. However, what we have just done is marketing. And marketing is actually not so intimidating. You're doing it every day when you're even talking about the library. And I agree as far as balancing it out. This is the best way to catch people's attention. And maybe it'll lead them to the webpage, maybe it won't, but it's in their face, it's in their mind. They've heard it. This is the start of community consciousness raising, if you will. So I just think this is a great way to start.
I agree, but I also agree with what Barry's saying, but knowing your staff, it's gonna take you a while to get the circulation clerk, you're in your busiest time of the year. I mean, honestly, marketing might be, I don't know that we need more committees, because I feel like we're all busy with meetings, but that may be something where, think about whether a board committee on marketing would help, because, boosting Facebook, it's cheap and it really works, and, for $25, $30, and it is a different market than listening to the radio, so.
All right.
So you're right in that, again, back to the strategic plan, that will really help us with that, but then it's getting the manpower to do it, do we need to, you
No,
know, get help
you
from
make
the
a good
board, the
point.
staff?
Yep.
You know, so, yeah.
Because if we do this now, there possibly will be a way to measure the response. And then we will recognize at some point in time that now we gotta get into some hardcore marketing in steps of committee. And, but
We do have a staff committee, I think I told you guys,
one, yeah.
we put some committees together, and that is one that we did put together. And, you know, moving forward, and like I said, when I went to this workshop down in Lansing, you know, more and more libraries, it's a position that they're bringing on board, on the staff. So it's something that we definitely wanna think about in the near future, with all the different marketing, avenues that we can be doing. There's so much more that we could be doing, but I think, Deanna had reached out to me and, you know, so we talked and we said, yeah, we got this
It's a
big,
good start.
we got this
yeah.
big event, and so we just went ahead and, you know, just did it, and I thought, there, I know the board's been talking about marketing, advertising, and we just did it, so, and like I said, next week, I plan on meeting with her, and doing more of, like a, like she said, one is an interview, so kind of doing a, you know, letting people know about our 6 branches, letting them know that we have not just kids programs, we've got adult programs, and just kind of getting it out there, because we are learning as we have more and more people, you know, especially our adult programs. I didn't know you did stuff like that. You know, people are still learning that, even though we've been doing this for the last year, that they're still learning that we're doing adult programs, so.
we will also learn. We will learn from the various experiences in the little forays we've done with radio, Facebook. We will know, and we can track that, we can track the Facebook responses, you know, there's different things we can do. So while we're doing not a lot of active stuff through a committee, we are accumulating data, and that's what we need. We need to accumulate a database, so, excellent, yeah.
I guess, like, been some discussion around committee. My personal thought would be is that we don't need more committees.
Please.
Yeah.
But it's kind of like how I feel about the strategic plan. The board needs some insight and overview, but doesn't need to be doing the work. And, you know, I think too much of our committees have been for too long involved in doing the work and not deferring that to our staff who we're paying to do this. So as it relates to this, I'll just kind of give how we do this at the airport is myself and the group that does the marketing, you know, executing and planning, basically once a year puts together like a 2-page marketing plan for the year that gets taken to the board. The board then has an opportunity to discuss. It's kind of high level, kind of setting the direction, and then all of the implementation details are on staff. I think that's a more appropriate way of doing it than having a board committee that's, you know, thinking about this.
Okay. I guess my final comment though would be, do we need any committee, on that note, are we scheduling any committee meetings? Like who needs to meet in August, or do we?
Let's take a break.
Policy, do you think policy could? I mean, we've
Well,
got the bylaws
no, I think
in
we're
process.
We're
You
good.
know, yeah.
Yeah, the 5-year plan,
Requires some thought.
yeah, but we have a good head start and no pressing deadline at this point. We haven't. I mean,
No, I think the work is on my end,
Yeah.
for the, like, facilities, getting some of these projects lined up. And I can bring that back to the board next month.
Right.
Hopefully we'll have a timeline for the tile and the asbestos and, the tech room. Summer reading wraps up this Friday, so moving forward, we'll be able to get some stuff done.
And finance can wait till after you meet with the county commissioners and whatever, and see if there's any changes, but otherwise, you know, we'll probably need to meet before.
I'm sure there will probably be one more,
But maybe it could be in September.
yeah.
I guess I might request though that personnel meets, because if we don't start working on a granular review now, We're gonna be late again.
For August?
In August, yeah, because our goal was to do that in October this year, not January. If we're doing an October, we can be meeting now in August, so, and since that's Tamara and I believe.
It's you and I.
That's you and I, okay, Tamara was last year.
Right.
So the board meeting's August 27th, so.
Okay,
So-
well, do we wanna set this up after and adjourn
Yep.
the meeting
Yep.
first?
But I think we do.
All right, so is it all right if I move to adjourn the meeting?
I'll second that.
All those in favor?
Aye.
I
Okay.
got one thing I wanna add. It's an idea. You know, I'm on all the health committees in Manistee County. I'm on mental health, physical health, and substance abuse and so on. All right, I just got back from a meeting in Las Vegas. I've got an idea. Now, the library has internet at every location, correct? Now, we have a hard time out county, it's in all the counties, of having any medical people out there. My idea was to see if I can get some people together and have a teledoc terminal set up at each one of the libraries. And that way, people that don't have the internet can get to the library and use it. It's just an idea I'm floating out there, so I want you guys to think about this because it's gonna be a library issue. But I have a meeting with the district health on Friday, I'm gonna present the same thing to them. And I actually am on the mental health board too. I mean, all you do, because I did it myself for the last 4 years, is you get up in the morning and you do your vitals, and you go to a nurse practitioner like Spectrum out in Grand Rapids is where mine went, and then they look at your results, and then they could refer you back, but that would give them some kind of treatment out there, out county and outside. Just an idea, just for you guys to think about. Okay, and one other thing, the 37.5 hours, I believe that's the hours that they work at the courthouse.
Yeah, I was gonna say, it's all across.
So if you were to change that, you're gonna have a big turnover here, because they're gonna want more hours, and they're gonna bump everybody out of here. So-
I think I've heard that before, yeah.
I mean, I would think about
Right,
that.
oh,
This is
aware of
the-
that, yeah, we definitely.
you know.
Yeah, all the, I
There's
think
a lot of
except for
we didn't know.
administrative is required to work 40, but
Okay, so,
everybody else.
okay.
But I know in the pay tables, there's a 37.5 hour version and there's a 40-hour version. So all of the capability is there, but there may be unintended consequences.
Yeah, I mean,
I think I have heard that, because I remember last year when we were going through some transitions, and so what I did was just offered the employees the opportunity to work 40 hours for a set period of time. But yeah, I think someone did tell me that, because I was saying, why don't you guys work 40 hours all the time? And I think I heard kind of the same scenario.
yeah, I mean, that's just something I'd caution you about.
I have a question, Rich, going back to your idea of teledoc.
Yeah.
Where, would there be anybody else doing this in the States?
I don't think anybody's doing it as a county level thing, no, I mean,
Not as a,
Spectrum does it for me. I was referred to Grand Rapids because of my heart, and that's how I got it. And I got to the idea, because other states, they're way behind us. They want the broadband, but, you know, you take the next best thing, we have the internet. I have internet at my house, that's how I sent my information. We could do that here.
Yeah, remote has.
Remotely, we could do that, and even we could send it to our, Dr. Morris, which is a district health officer, she's a doctor. We could have a nurse read it, give it to her, and if she has a request for seeing a patient, she could make all the arrangements for them.
That's a good point, because when I was still working, this is what we were discussing. You know, how do we remotely get a hold of our patients? Because some of them didn't live anywhere near our different clinics. The reason was, a lot of it was, you know, internet. Can they afford internet? Our same situation is here, is the lack of internet.
Yeah.
But if, that, we can draw them
If
into
we
the
get
library.
to a closer destination, which is
Yes.
the library, we'd be doing great.
And have the medical people cover the HIPAA rules, because obviously.
Oh, yeah, there's
that's
HIPAA
the-
rules.
There'd be
going on.
real, you know.
But you
'cause
know
we'd have to
darn well,
work
when
on
you're
that.
sick, you're not worried about HIPAA. You're worried about getting better.
Right.
If your blood
And-
pressure
But if,
shoots
it-
up.
yeah, and, yeah.
But it's just something
Good
that
idea.
they'll work that out. I mean, I would think just the health department.
I'm sure they would, I'm sure they know.
But I'm just bringing it to you guys to
Yeah.
think about it before I pursue it any farther.
I like it,
Yeah.
because it's unique.
Yeah, we would be.
Well, it's a great service, it would be a great
I
service.
mean, we're the only entity around that has one office that had mental health, physical health, and the hospital all in one location. And we got it right here in Manistee.
Alrighty.
All right.
All right, that's all I wanted to say.
Thank you, oh no.
Thank you.
That's great input.